So, as part of our other PNL leadership series, I really badly wanted to talk to Dr. Ken Gall. And I think you'll agree with me that his background and the things he has accomplished are truly exceptional. Dr. Gall has combined a very, very deep academic experience with real world entrepreneurship. And I can't say that I've ever quite met anybody who is this academically intelligent. Ken is very, very smart. He is very, very technical. He has worked on 3D printers that can print body parts that can be used in the middle of surgery because I've seen them. I've actually been to his office and seen some of that. And he's also on the side in his spare time, so to speak, a valuable member and equity holder of several different medical device companies. And several of them are now coming to fruition and really paying off for him. He is a professor in the physics department at Duke University, and he's also the associate dean of entrepreneurship. So he's combined science and entrepreneurship in a way that he's really monetized the entire thing. And I think he really enjoys teaching his students about how to do that, which is fascinating to me. But I think he's very unique, and because you don't see this from a lot of college professors. When you think of college professors, you might think of people that are just kind of drowning in books. Well, that's not Ken. Ken loves to combine both of them so he can teach his students the textbook applications and the technical part, but also the real world part. As to how do you take this knowledge and really bring it to the real world? And I think in that respect, he's a very, very unique individual, and what a great teacher, what a great experience for these students to be able to talk to him. The other part of Dr. Gall's experience is that he has been involved in a lot of companies that have raised capital in several different stages, and he's had several different partners in each of these businesses. So he knows what sweat equity is. He's taken sweat equity, he's given sweat equity. He knows when you should give sweat equity and when you shouldn't. He knows how teams work together. He knows how equity partners work together. He knows how to take the whole thing from the beginning and take it all the way up to something that's blossoming and is very valuable and very sellable in the general marketplace. And there's a lot of challenges in having partners, especially on equity partners. And there's a lot of challenges as to when to give equity to people and when to make people pay for equity. And Ken has a lot of experience and knowledge in understanding these different aspects, how to deal with partners, how to split up the work, how not to get step on each other's toes, how not to get jealous of one another, how not to have too many disagreements, how not to be overly greedy, but at the same time not overly fearful. So Ken just has a broad base of knowledge in these things, and a lot of people that we talk to, a lot of our clients, have a lot of questions about, should I use phantom stock? Should I use equity? What kind of partner should I get? When should I bring them in? Et cetera, et cetera. And Ken can answer these questions, and he does in this interview. So I think Ken is a very fascinating individual, extremely intelligent, but also very down to earth and very practical. I hope you enjoy listening to this interview, and I hope you get something out of it. All right, so today I'm here with Dr. Ken Gall. He's at Duke University, but that certainly doesn't tell the whole story about him. He's got a lot of experiences and likes to stay active, doing a lot of things and putting a lot of his knowledge and trade to work in the business world and or the medical field. And first, I just want to say, Ken, I guess I've never called you Dr. Gall. I've always known you as Ken, but whatever your preference is. I know you're a laid back guy, so
I'll keep. Ken is good.
But yeah, I mean, thanks for being here today, and thanks for giving us your time, man. Really appreciate it.
Oh yeah, sure, Dan. No problem. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and so I think what the thing that's most intriguing about you, and when I first met you and started looking at your background and whatnot, was, it's very unique to have somebody who goes as deep into academia as you have. In fact, I know guys that I went to college with and whatnot that have done that, but they're professors, right? I don't see a lot of them
kind of dabbling in things outside of it that much. So, I've always seen you as unique in that area, but I've never really, in all the business that you and I have talked about over the years, I've never really asked you about your background. I mean, would you kind of maybe just give a little bit of like, this is kind of where I was born, and this is kind of how my story of how I came to be where I am now?
Okay. Yeah, I can do that. I'll try to give a abridged, but hopefully somewhat interesting version of it. So yeah, I was born in Chicago, raised in Chicago suburbs. Went to Elmhurst College for 2 years outside of Chicago. Was a wrestler there for 2 years, and then transferred to University of Illinois and moved into mechanical engineering. I was a nuclear physics major at Elmhurst before that, and then moved. I wanted something more practical. Transferred into engineering. Really fell in love with mechanical engineering and working on advanced research and new materials. And because of that, I stayed for my master's and PhD at Illinois straight through. So I just continued on. And then after my PhD, I went to Sandia National Labs, did a postdoc, and I worked mostly in their nuclear weapons program, doing modeling of materials. Decided I wanted to work more in the biomedical space. That was a shift I wanted to make at that point. And I took my first academic position. This would have been about 1999 at University of Colorado Boulder, and worked there for about 5 years. Loved it. It was a great campus, a lot of good researchers, and really started getting into biomedical space. And at that time, I was a classic professor. I was sort of doing publications, research, working with, getting federal grants, had students, but I really was longing for something a little bit more. I wanted to actually see some of the stuff I was working on commercialized. And so founded my first business in 2005 as a professor with some of my students. And that was called MedShape. At the same time, in 2005, I moved MedShape and our early kind of offices to Atlanta. I took a job at Georgia Tech. Was at Georgia Tech for 10 years, a great school. I moved there primarily because they were just much stronger in the biomedical space. And so moved MedShape to Georgia Tech, stayed there 10 years. And then in 2015, moved to Duke to be the chair of the department here. And I've been here ever since. I'm not chair anymore, but I'm still in the department here. And then after forming MedShape, formed a bunch of different businesses along the way that maybe we'll talk about today.
Yeah, neat. So that's interesting. I didn't know you went to Elmhurst. So I learned something new today.
Yeah.
Well, I went to Illinois Wesleyan, so we were in the same conference and all that stuff.
Yep.
I didn't wrestle, thank goodness. I wouldn't come up against you, but I don't even think we had a wrestling team. But
Possibly,
and anyway,
I don't remember. Were you Division III?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So you went to U of I, and then you did your master's and PhD. Were you just overly fascinated with the subject area, or did you know kind of what you wanted to do later in life, and you knew that you had to get that deep in knowledge? Or what were you thinking about your career path at that point?
Yeah, it was less exciting than that, in the sense that I remember going to a seminar. I was enjoying school, so I liked the academic side. I loved the social side. I was in a fraternity there, Sigma Chi, and I enjoyed both aspects, both the social and academic aspects of being in college. And I went to a seminar, and basically it was about grad school, and it was a required seminar. So I went to the seminar and looked at it, and they basically revealed that they'll pay you to go to grad school in engineering, which was a surprise to me. I had no clue that was the option. So they pay your tuition and you get a little stipend. And I thought, hey, I like studying. I'm doing this. I like the research I've started doing. I'm going to give this a shot. So I applied to grad school, really started liking it even more, and then stayed. So I didn't have, unfortunately, a grand vision other than I liked what I was doing. Yep. And I thought, if I could become an expert in some area that I enjoyed, I could wield that to try to do things with, and really go after it. Yeah. So that was it.
Well, that's it's interesting. I kind of a little bit relate to that in the fact that I didn't feel like I wanted to get a PhD in accounting, but I did know I wasn't really on the path of wanting to really sit down and kind of crunch numbers my whole life, but I knew that it was building me a skill that would be valuable at some point, right? That I could utilize and monetize, I guess, in some respects. So, yeah, so I kind of relate to that a little bit, but I have not gone into action like you have. I mean, I know that you have been part of several different startups, maybe different phases and stuff with different types of partners. I mean, you said one of them you started with your students, and I know I'm aware of some other ones where, it's not your students, but some other guys with horsepower like you, or men or women with horsepower like you, to drive it through. But you've had several different things, so you're not just kind of a one-hit wonder, from what I know. And so, what kind of like what was the catalyst that kind of moved you toward, yeah, I want to be an entrepreneur, and yeah, I want to throw myself into this, because it's a time commitment, right? There's time, there's risk involved and stuff. But like, what was that kind of moment, that aha moment that was like, yeah, I want to do this? And was it something you just wanted to try and dabble in, or was it like, I know I want to do this and I want to get started with this one, but I intend on doing more?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I will say one thing in there, now I'm a multi-hit wonder, but I at one point I was a zero-hit wonder for many years. So it took a really long time to have our first hit. My first business was founded in 2005, and our first exit was 2017. So it took a decade plus of stuff. But
It's an overnight success in a 10-year period, right?
yeah, that's right. Pretty much. Yeah, probably a good way to describe it, and I think I can tell you the catalyst that got me started, and then what kept me going is probably a little different.
Yeah.
But the catalyst was, I remember I was writing a paper for one of the things, and I had, our papers were reasonably well read, and we were publishing good stuff, I think. And I remember writing the introduction to it, and it was talking about one of the uses of nickel titanium. You could use it in, implants and this and this. And then I started thinking, is anyone going to do this? Like, are they going to read this paper and be like, oh, great idea, I should do this? And then my brain started swirling, and I thought, okay, well, even if they did that and it worked, wouldn't I be pissed that it worked? Why didn't I do it? And if I don't believe it's going to work, why am I even writing this? And so it got me in this like tailspin of, it's almost like put up or shut up. Like, I was like, either I'm going to talk about these things. And so that really got me thinking about starting a business and saying, let's try to commercialize the stuff we're doing if it's unique. And I didn't know that there was a couple other businesses around the same time frame that were formed in Nightingale. So I was sort of in the right place at the right time. It was Biomedical Enterprises, BME, Mimo Metal. These were other businesses that were started. One was in France, another was in the United States. They started in 98 and 2003, and then we started in 2005. So we were kind of in the right zone to start this. And all three of those businesses have been acquired, by the way. So it does show you that it does matter where you start, and, are you in the right place at the right time? So that was obviously the right thing to be doing. But at the time, it was more just out of almost telling myself, if I don't do this, who's going to do it? And that got me started. I was also extraordinarily naive. I didn't understand what it was going to take to build the business, to finance it, to do much of anything. And so I think that helped me take the leap, because I don't know what I know now. I just thought, I'll try this out. But I think in the same respect, I'm pretty resilient. I don't like to lose. And so I really, once we got going and had some difficulties, that only made me double down. And I didn't want to give up. And we had raised friends and family money, and you want to see that out for your friends and family. You try to get them a good return, but you really don't want to give them a loss, right? I mean, that's the sort of hard, and that made the business real. We raised friends and family money in my first business in 2008 or 9. And so that was a couple of years after the founding, but that really put it into high gear at that point.